I guess I can start with a little introduction. So my name is Tiga, and I'm a designer slash engineer here at Replit, and I'm also the maintainer and creator of Kaboom, which is this little game library we're going to talk about today. Lena, do you want to do a short introduction of yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Lena. I am the head of community at Replit. And I will be learning Kaboom alongside all of you today.
So yeah, let's get right started. So let me share my screen real quick. Okay. Um, so um, so Kaboom is a JavaScript game engine that we created, especially for the purpose of making it accessible for beginners. Um, it'll be one of the explicit goal is it can be used in an educational context because it's very simple to get something on screen, get some stuff moving, which will get new learners very excited very quick. So today in this session, we'll be going to demonstrate some core concepts and functionalities in Kaboom by building a simple game together. So this is Kaboom website. You can check it out here. And after this, you can also, there's a lot of examples for you to explore on the playground. But today we're going to build something on Replit. So first, Replit has a Kaboom template, which is really convenient to let us get started with the Kaboom game really fast. So let's type in Kaboom in the template searcher here, and you can see there's a Kaboom template here. Let's create a template real quick. Make it bigger. Okay, so this is a Kaboom template. The first thing you can notice, probably a little bit different here, is it has a special sidebar here, which contains some aspects of Kaboom. That's, for example, there's the code section here, which is really similar to. So this is actually really similar to file tree, the file tree here, but it's more specialized to Kaboom. So it lists your code files and it lists your the sprites you're using for the game, which is the images, and there's also a list of sounds, and also there contains some minute tutorials about how to use this template and how to use Kaboom. And there's also, so we're going to be building the tutorial listed here. So we're going to be building a little Chrome dino game, if any of you have used Chrome. So this little dinosaur game where you lose your internet, but in a Kaboom way. So let's first run the repo to see what we have here, because let's see, we have some starting code right here. So this starting code gives us basically a game object on screen. It also gives us some fun explosion effects when we click on the canvas. And we'll talk about this later, but let's first delete all these and start fresh. So the first thing in Kaboom is to start using Kaboom, you just call the Kaboom function, which gives you this canvas with this checkerboard background here. And the first thing we want to do for this is we want to actually load this sprite into our game engine. So by doing this, we can just simply, so we already have this sprite here, which is actually stored here in the sprites directory. And there's a very convenient helper functionality here is to insert load code. So it inserts this load code, this code to load the sprite into our game. But this code doesn't actually put the stuff on screen. So to put something on the screen, we're going to use the add function in Kaboom, which is one of the very core functions of Kaboom. And so Kaboom uses a component system where each game object is composed from a list of components. We'll talk about it more later, but let's first try how this works. So this, we are using the sprite component, which basically makes this game object appear on and render as a sprite on the screen. And there's also another component called pus, which is its position. And basically this controls the position of the game object on the screen. So if we do position 80, 40, it'll go to an XY coordinate of 80 and 40. And there's a lot of other components too. And so the idea of Kaboom is we use components to compose the functionalities of our game objects. For example, we can have an area component, which gives the collider area for the game object. So we can later check for collision. We cannot see this now, except using a debug mode, which Kaboom has, which shows you, which gives you some debug information. You can enter the debug mode by pressing F1 here. And another component we can use in this case is we can use the body component, which gives the which makes the game object becomes a physical body that responds to physics, for example, gravity. So so if we run this now, it'll actually fall to the ground, and so their being is responding to gravity right now. And
what could I potentially put in the parameters for area and for body?
Oh yeah, so that's a good question. So if you look at the so all these components are documented on the Kaboom documentation. So if you look at the documentation for area, you can actually pass in a bunch of options. For example, we can define the width, the size of the area. So for example, let's actually remove the body right now so we can so it doesn't fall. So by default, the area component, which gives the object collider, it gives a collider that's basically the size of the sprite. It automatically gets the size from the sprite and uses it as a collider size. But if we can also pass in some parameters, like we can specify a width of 10 to make it smaller, for example, which will make it a smaller collider. But a more common thing is we want to make it. Sometimes we want to make it the collider just smaller, and we don't want to get into too much parameters. So sometimes we can just use the scale property here, which makes the area a little bit smaller in this case. But in this game, we're actually going to use the default area, which is the sprite width. So you can actually also learn more about components and how they work by, there's some fun images in the tutorial here. So components is basically like a part of your body. So in this case, your eye could be a component, your mouth could be a component, and every component gives you some functionality. For example, your mouth can eat and smile, your hand can raise and grab stuff, and let's actually try to use, so each of these, when we assign this game object to a variable, let's say, so this character is called Bean. It's like a character in the Kaboom universe. So let's assign this game object to a variable then, and we can actually use some functions provided by these components. For example, let's try re-enabling the body command, and let's make this game object jump. Let's try to register a key press event, which is enabled by this onKeyPress function. So it registers an event where it runs when the user presses a certain key. So, and in this case, let's register an event that runs when user presses space key, and let's call it bean.jump, and let's see what this does. So you can see I'm pressing the space key here, and the bean is actually jumping. So this jump function is provided by this this body component here. If you go to see the where's the body component?
It's right under outline. There you go.
Okay, thank you, Lena. You can actually see what these components contain by clicking the component that they return. So the body component gives us a lot of properties. Gives us some of these we probably won't talk about, but for example, the jump force, we can reassign and redefine the jump force for the body component. And what we were using here was the jump function, which gives us the ability to jump. And if we remove the body component, it won't have the jump function. It'll give it as an error. So that's the component system of Kaboom. So let's actually build this game out. So we already have a character who can jump now, and that's next let's actually add a platform so our character won't be falling infinitely. So to do that, we're going to use another component, another game object, which is another add here. And so similar to Sprite, we can also make the game object render as a lot of other shapes. For example, there's a rect component, which means rectangle. And it accepts two parameters here. Let's see what they are. Okay, so it's at the width and height. Let's try height 50 and 80, let's say. So you can see that gives us a rectangle here on the top of the screen. But actually in the game, we actually want it to be on the bottom. So, and we want it to be a full width rectangle, so it covers the full screen. Let's try. So there's another function in Kaboom called width, which gives us the canvas width. Let's see what this does. So this gives a full width. Let's actually make this a little bit smaller. And let's put it on the bottom. So we're gonna use the pause component again. The x should be 0, and the y probably should be height minus 40, which is the height. So so position by default is at the top left corner of the screen. So we have a rectangle here, but it doesn't really do anything. It just renders. We actually want this to be a platform which can stop us from falling down.
Can we add body to that then?
Yeah, we can definitely add body. Let's see what body does here.
Will that make the platform fall?
Yeah, let's see. So actually body requires area. So it requires us to give the collider to actually use body. That will make us fall together, and that's probably not what we want. What can we do? We want the platform to be a physical object, but we don't want it to fall.
Yeah.
That's actually there's another component called solid here, which also makes the makes the game object respond to physics, but it doesn't respond to gravity. So it'll be perfect for a game object like this, where we want to just be a solid static object like a platform. So this component actually works perfect here. We can find it in the documentation here. Doesn't really give us a lot of properties, but it just gives us the ability to make it stop other objects from passing through them. So we have a platform.
Now Bean can finally rest.
Bean can finally rest on a platform and don't have to fall into oblivion. Yeah, that's actually so that's the core components we need here, and I'm just gonna copy some color and stuff to make it look prettier from the tutorial. Okay, so we also have a color component which adds a color to the game object. Let's see what this does. It gives it a blue platform, which is really nice. And I also want to give it the outline, so we kind of have a same visual look as being here, which also have the outline. Yep, we got outline here. Okay, so we have a platform here. And what's the next step? Let's actually add some obstacles like the dinosaur game. So some stuff you have to jump over with. But before that, let's actually solve the problem, because we probably don't want Bean to always be able to jump, because that's not abiding to the laws of physics. We probably can only jump when we're on the ground. So in this case, we're actually using let's use another. We want to decide here if Bean can jump or not if they're grounded. So for this, we're actually using another function provided by the body component here, which is grounded, which gives us a Boolean about if the game object is currently grounded or not. Let's see what this does. So here we're trying to make it only jump when Bean is only grounded. So you can see I'm smashing the space key here, but it only jumps when being scrambled. So that works. Oh, another thing is, oops, never mind. Okay, so let's add the obstacles to jump over now. So add an obstacle, we're going to use another add block because it's another game object. Let's actually comment here so it becomes more clear. Making jump on space key, adding to the string, load space, right access. And now we are going to add an obstacle. Oops, how's the obstacle? I leave it at this. Okay, so so the obstacle, let's see what our obstacle actually looks like in the game. So we want to, so it looks like another rectangle. So let's try to add another rectangle here. And it probably won't be that wide. Let's try 40 here. And let's try to make it be on the platform. So there's a couple ways we can do it. We can make it a body where it falls on the platform. But the body requires the area component to work. Yeah, we can make it a body that it falls on the platform. Another way we can do is because body, because these two, we're gonna have a lot of obstacles, and if we make it every one of the body, that actually because a body has to check for collision every frame. So we actually have a cheaper way to do this, which is just to position it at the edge of the platform and just let it stay there and don't fall. So to do that, let's just position it. Let's give a random X value like 200. And let's also make it to the same position as the platform here, which is height -40. If we do that, that's actually under the platform. So to make it, it'll be much easier if we can make the position to define the bottom left of the obstacle. So to do that, we can use another component called origin, which defines the origin or anchor point of the game object. And let's give it a origin of bottom left. It can be snapped right on top of the platform here. And it works just perfect. So to make it a little bit lower, okay. And I'm also going to copy some styles here from the tutorial to make it look better. So we have a color right this, and we also have an outline for this thing. So now we want to make this obstacle actually move toward our players, so we can actually have some challenge here. To do that, we have a move component, which is a component that allows the game object to move constantly to a direction and with a speed. So in this case, let's try moving towards the left with a speed of 80 pixels per second. So you can find the documentation of move here, right here. So it moves towards the direction infinite. That's right. And I'll actually put this to a little, and let's see what this does. Okay, so we have a moving platform. We have a moving obstacle here, which is exactly what we want. But let's try making it a little bit faster because this looks a bit too slow.
The stakes seem kind of low right now because nothing happens when we run into the box.
Yeah, that's definitely a problem. This game has no challenge right now. There's only jumping and move.
There's only winners in this game.
Yeah. So so how do we add challenge? We can actually there's no challenge if we can't tell if the objects are colliding with each other, which the game should probably lose when we collide into this this thing. So let's actually give this another area object component so we can check the collision between the obstacle and the player. So we're also I'm gonna give this game object a tag here. So how collision works in one way in Kaboom is we can use the onCollide function, which register a collision event detector to this game object. So the onCollide function is it's a function provided by the area component here, which allows us to register an event that runs when this component or when this game object collides with another game object that contains a certain tag. So tags are just a string we can attach to a game object that help us to in situations like this. So we can basically define some game objects behavior as a group. So in this case, we want to do something when being collides with a tree here. So let's actually use let's see. So add Kaboom is just a bit simple helper function that creates an explosion effect. Let's see what this does here. We can see when being collides with the tree here, this callback function successfully gets triggered. So we almost have a game here that has collision detection and stuff moving in only just 50 lines of code. So next step, let's actually add more trees. So we have an infinite challenge coming up to us. So we don't just have to jump over one stuff. And to do that, Kaboom has a function called loop, which allows us to run a certain function every certain seconds. So we can look at the documentation of loop here. It runs the callback every n seconds. So let's try adding a tree every 1 second, so we always have something to jump over with. Nice. So you can see the tree is spawning at the spot every 1 second. But this is kind of first. Let's make the tree spawn at the screen edge, which we probably want to do a position of width here. Okay, nice. So we have a tree constantly moving toward us in this direction. But the game isn't really fun right now. First, because we are kind of impossible to jump over these because they're moving so slow, and also because the trees they all have the same heights, so we don't really have much challenge here. The first thing we can try is to make it a little bit spaced out. We have a little bit breathing room here, and let's also make it go a little bit faster. So it's actually possible to jump over them. And another thing we can try is to make the height actually be random. So we can use the rand function in Kaboom, which is a helper function that gives us a random number. Let's try giving a between 40 and 70 and how it feels like. You can see it's not that obvious, but it's giving us trees at random height now. We can maybe tweak this to be a little bit larger so we can see the difference more clearly. Okay, so we already have a pretty contentful game here. We have jumping, we have obstacle moving towards you, and this is just also just 50 lines of code. So for time concern, we're not going to go through all of these. I'll just add a really quick thing. I add a screenshot when we bump into a tree to give us more feedback, so we can have a more dramatic effect when we bump into a tree. So I will not be going through all the tutorial here, but I also want to demonstrate some other aspects of Kaboom that we haven't talked about. So if you go to the Kaboom playground here, there's a lot of documented examples here, and something I want to show you is so Kaboom also has this level API, which lets you create a level based on some ASCII art. So in this case, we are basically creating a platform level with just drawing symbols like this. And there's a better example here called the platformer example. We are building this level from a syntax like this, which is very easy to iterate on. And the way how it works is also using the component system to define the symbols, the component for each symbol. So this is another thing that's I think is really great for beginner coders who are learning to program, where they can try out very different stuff just by changing some text. There's also you can also find what we're building here on this running example. Oh yeah, so Kaboom also had this this burp function.
It takes me by surprise every time. Never has a burp been so scary.
Yeah, there needs to be a burp in every Kaboom game. It's like the culture of Kaboom. Yeah, so this is a slightly more sophisticated. It has like a scene here, a losing screen, which is also pretty simple. You just put stuff in the scene function, and you can get a losing screen and a game screen real quick. There's also a pawn example. Just a standard pawn. This is also about 70 lines of code. There's a Flappy Bird demo, which is pretty similar to what we built here, just without a platform. So yeah, this is Kaboom also has some other advanced stuff. You can also define custom shader. But yeah, that's the basis of Kaboom.
I think one of my favorite things that you didn't mention yet is that your students can create their own sprites from within the editor. So we have like a little pixel editor, and you can give it a name, give it a size, and then your students can create their own. I used to teach game dev to my students, and they would always have a hard time finding images that they could use or that fit well into their games. And so this is really fun, especially to engage with like students who are really creative and want to express their art. And here's Mark.
Thank you, Lena, for mentioning that. Yeah. So Kaboom has this simple tool, which is also actually enabled for every repo. That allows to draw a very quick sprite. So I'll just demonstrate how you can use it real quick. Oops. There's also insert load code. Actually name the thing so it automatically replaces all the things right here. So we're using the sprite we just draw.
Oh, cute.
We have a tiny mark here.
We also got a question from David Lane. How can I get back to the Kaboom instructions after running a game? You'll notice, David, in the box below where the game is running, there's a little markdown area, and that's where the instructions are. They're also in the README file if you need them.
Thank you,
and then there's one last question I saw, Tiga, about what it looks like full screen. Do you mind just expanding that pane into a new tab,
yeah,
sure. And you can see how it renders?
So by default, Kaboom will stretch the full screen. So you can see here we have a really tiny mark.
Little mark in a big world.
Yes. Just navigating his way through these rectangles. Okay.
How to make the sprite bigger?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. There's a lot of ways. You can use the scale components. Let's see. Let's just try and make it 10 times bigger, which is probably gonna break the game. So wait. What's happening? Oh yeah. So our mark here is it looks like he's floating because we have some edge on the sprite. So, but it's basically he really cannot do anything right now. He's too big. Yeah. So there's the scale component. You can also actually define the width and height from the sprite component.
Awesome.
Something really
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. We're at time, but Tiga, thank you. I learned a lot on this, and I love parade float mark. That's so funny.
Thank you, Lena.
Tiga, how can people reach you if they have more questions?
One way you can reach me is so for Kaboom specific question, you can DM the Kaboom Twitter account, which is
the link in the.
Cool. Thank you.
And then someone in the Q&A asked about where to find other games. And so check out the Q&A. I posted links to a couple of our Kajam entries, as well as where you can find anything built with Kaboom.js in our community. And I've got the code pinned at the top of the chat if you need it. All right. So I'm going to say, have a great day, everyone. We'll see you later. And then if you want to stay on as we answer David's last question, by all means, go ahead. All right.
Thank you, guys.
So Tiga, we got another question. How do Kaboom platformer, and light templates differ?
Oh yeah, so that's a little confusing aspects here. So Kaboom is the official template for just the base template for Kaboom games, and Kaboom platformer has an example game inside, which is the game you see here. So it has a platformer game built in that you can modify from there. And also, so the light template is the most confusing one, where the light template is based from a HTML template, and it doesn't use npm or stuff, so it's very lightweight. So if you want a very lightweight experience that doesn't have all the features, you can use Kaboom Light. But the Kaboom template should be the base template, the base official template. Thanks for your question.
Cool. Thanks, Tiga. I just put the link to the game in the event chat so people can continue to play with Megamark versus trees. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.